Malcolm X, Analysis of Learning to Read. Malcolm Little was Malcolm X's previous name before he chose the letter X to represent the loss of his African ethnic identity. He was born in Nebraska in 1925, and after converting to Islam, he began to engage in social activism. Interviews conducted just before his passing served as the basis for learning to read. Actually, it is a passage from Haley's 1965 book, which is about Malcolm. Learning to Read is a thorough narrative that explains how X grew awakened and developed his own thoughts while he was imprisoned. A description of Malcolm's view on the ills of white people may be found in the text. Following is a review of Learning to Read, which will specify the readership and the text's goal, highlighting significant rhetorical tools utilized by Malcolm X. The text was written for the entire world and anybody looking for inspiration in mind as its audience. Nevertheless, all minority groups were directly addressed by the discourse. Malcolm X was largely a people of color activist, even within these groups in general. To propagate his ideas of black tyranny by white people, Malcolm traveled the globe. His statement also resonates strongly with the convicts, particularly the young black inmates, given the commentary was composed when he was going through problems in prison. X left school in the 8th grade. He was kidnapped as a prisoner at an early age due to criminal conduct. He is regarded as the pinnacle of enormous accomplishment for someone who had to overcome many difficulties and formidable barriers. He used his own experience, even the difficult times, in his literary works. He studied in their library and furthered his education throughout his difficult time in prison. This period not only helped him succeed academically but also helped him become a well-known human rights advocate, a powerful African-American pastor, and a representative of the Islamic countries. People may read about his struggles and amazing path to literacy in Learning to Read. It informs people about X's schooling, which had a crucial role in his life. Malcolm's studies helped shape him into the person that the world knows today. Additionally, teaching individuals to read sends a signal of hope to everyone who is confined. The essay not only promotes education and learning but also conveys the author's beliefs and tries to persuade readers to support him. Without the influence of education, Malcolm's eyes would never have opened, progressively, then broader, to how the entire world's white men have actually acted like demons. His eyes were opened to become what X became by his difficult upbringing, turbulent youth, and 10 years of incarceration for burglary. Malcolm, despite being the most vociferous thug, was a nobody in prison. His desire to study was sparked at that same time by waking. This awakening is shown in the extract. Since he had no educational credentials, readers cannot expect him to effectively employ ethos as a rhetorical device. Malcolm, nevertheless, uses ethos as well as the characteristics of logos and pathos to expose the tyranny of white people and the meaning of his jail. One interpretation is that X was attempting to recruit others to his cause of civil rights. Malcolm X successfully presented his point and persuaded his followers to agree with it by using the mentioned rhetorical techniques. X wants to show his audience that, even if formal education is important, one does not need it to appear intelligent and enlightened. Malcolm requested a dictionary, a pencil, and paper from the jail library so that he could start learning how to read and compose. After starting to copy down each line of this dictionary, he discovered that he had remembered some of the knowledge after 2 days of possessing it. Malcolm realized this and began copying the dictionary every day until he had finished it. In order to elaborate on his idea and explain his advancement in reading, Malcolm appeals to logos. He claims, "I suppose it was inevitable that as my word base broadened, I could for the first time pick up a book and read and now begin to understand what the book was saying." Then, he utilizes pathos to show how reading affected his life and establish an emotional connection with the readers. He states, "I knew right there in prison that reading had changed forever the course of my life. As I see it today, the ability to read awoke inside me some long-dormant craving to be mentally alive." By summarizing major ideas from several books, Malcolm establishes his authority and invites his audience to study the works for themselves, which can be considered an appeal to ethos. For instance, I read H. G. Wells's Outline of History, Souls of Black Folk by William Edward Burghardt Du Bois gave me a glimpse into the black people's history before they came into this country. Malcolm became practically fascinated with reading after he learned to read and began reading constantly. Malcolm uses rhetorical techniques to convince his audience to agree with his thoughts and convictions in learning to read. He skillfully communicates his two key points by using reason, persuasion, and establishing credibility. Malcolm X contended that the academic work he completed while incarcerated was more valuable than any college education he may have earned if he had continued his education. Malcolm X's points contribute to the discussions about education, society, culture, law, and economics. Malcolm established a group for African American civil rights as a result of his extreme rage over the issue of civil rights. He became one of the most well-known civil rights advocates in history by employing the rhetorical techniques he picked up during his prison studies. When societal discontent around the civil rights struggle was at its height, Malcolm utilized his autobiography's rhetorical structure as a platform to share his ideas and convictions about literacy and civil rights with the world. Thus, an extract from Malcolm's autobiographical narrative may be found in Learning to Read. The storyline centers on his incarceration, during which he honed his writing talents. The story's primary target audience is young people of color, particularly those who are behind bars. Anyone may, however, appreciate the reading if they want to be inspired. Its goals are to encourage learning in individuals and to uplift inmates. He also utilizes the narrative to advance his viewpoint on how whites oppress black people. The essay is quite convincing, given that the author was able to employ rhetorical techniques to persuade his audience despite having no academic education. Malcolm X experienced a threshold values epiphany while converting to Islam. It is clear that logos, ethos, and pathos are used as rhetorical devices to persuade readers.